There are moments in life that seem ordinary at first, yet somehow, beneath the surface, they carry the weight of change. The kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it, and that evening was one of those moments for me. The house was quiet, the lingering absence of Marquez still hanging in every corner, and I sat on the couch with Liam beside me, the faint flicker of the television casting shadows across his face. And for the first time in years, I noticed how much he had grown, how his presence filled the room differently than before, his shoulders broader, his posture confident, his face carrying the subtle definition of a young man stepping fully into himself. And yet, despite the passage of time, he was still my stepson, the boy I had watched grow up. And now this strange mixture of pride and unease twisted inside me as we watched the movie, the plot unfolding with action and romance. But it was nothing on the tension that quietly stretched between us, the way his arm brushed against the back of the couch inching slightly closer without words, and the way his gaze met mine, lingering, searching, making me acutely aware of how near we were both sitting. How close the unspoken currents between us had pulled us together, and my heart raced with the realization that the bond we had built over years of loss and comfort was suddenly shifting into something more complicated. Something that neither of us had named, and yet both of us could feel. There was a softness in the way he spoke, the gratitude in his voice when he thanked me for always being there, for never letting him feel alone in the house. Words that struck me with warmth and a sharp ache all at once, because while I had been guiding him through grief, I hadn't realized how much of myself I had poured into being present for him, and now that he noticed, now that he acknowledged it, the emotional intensity between us became almost palpable, a current of closeness that was both comforting and disorienting. And when he leaned slightly, letting his shoulder brush against mine, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't expected, a thrill that terrified me because I knew it came from a place of deep human connection, of mutual care and unspoken understanding, and yet I struggled to keep my emotions in check, reminding myself over and over that he was still Liam, my stepson, that the closeness we felt should remain in the realm of family, yet every small glance, every subtle movement carried a weight that made it impossible to ignore the depth of our bond. Over the following days, his behavior shifted in ways that were subtle but unmistakable. He helped around the house more. His attentiveness to me and the space we shared grew, and while the acts themselves were in center, broom taken from my hands, a helping hand in the kitchen, the emotional undertone was charged, as if every gesture carried an unspoken acknowledgement of the connection that neither of us had yet fully articulated. And I found myself noticing the way he looked at me, the quiet intensity in his eyes, the small smiles that lingered longer than necessary. And I realized that what we were experiencing wasn't about romance or anything forbidden, but about recognition, about the acknowledgement of care. understanding, and the raw vulnerability of two people who had been through loss together and were now navigating the complexity of their feelings, which made me both nervous and strangely exhilarated. Because for the first time in years, I felt truly seen, truly appreciated, and the mixture of gratitude and emotion created a tension that was almost tangible, a suspense that hung in the air, thick and unspoken. Building in each small interaction, each lingering glance, each shared moment of quiet intimacy in conversation or a casual touch. Like when he leaned against the counter while I cooked, watching with curiosity and concern, not inappropriately, but with a care that went beyond ordinary familial connection. And I found myself responding to him in kind, allowing my attention to linger, speaking to him with more openness, sharing thoughts and feelings I hadn't voiced in years. And in doing so, we both discovered a new depth to our relationship, one that was founded on trust, shared history, and the unspoken understanding that life had thrown challenges our way, and yet, together, we had emerged not just resilient, but profoundly connected. The emotional intensity of this new dynamic made ordinary moments feel extraordinary. The way he helped set the table, the way he laughed at something I said, the way he noticed details about me I had assumed went unseen. And I began to understand that this was not just about him noticing me as a caretaker or an adult figure, but about a mutual recognition of each other as complete, complex individuals who had become indispensable to each other. And the suspense of not knowing exactly how to navigate this new layer of our relationship kept me alert, aware, my mind constantly dancing between caution and the warmth of shared affection. The thrill of being seen in a way I hadn't felt in years, and the fear that any misstep could disrupt the fragile balance we were building. When he surprised me with the birthday celebration, the thoughtfulness and care evident in every detail, the candles, the flowers, the perfectly set table, and the way he presented me with a gift he clearly hoped I would love, my heart swelled, not with romantic desire, but with a profound appreciation for the depth of his empathy and the thought he had put into making me feel valued, special, and seen. And as I stood in the mirror trying on the dress he had picked, I realized that this was a moment of reflection, both literal and figurative, seeing myself not just through my own eyes, but through the lens of someone who genuinely cared. And that perspective, that validation, made me feel vibrant, alive, and intensely aware of the emotional bond between us. Throughout the evening, as we shared wine and conversation, the tension remained, but it was safe, thrilling, and charged with emotion, a suspense born not of danger or desire, but of mutual recognition, honesty, and the delicate navigation of feelings that neither of us could yet fully name. And every word, every glance, every small gesture contributed to this growing intensity. Until by the end of the night, when we finally paused, it was clear that something fundamental had shifted, that the bond between us had deepened into a connection that was no longer defined simply by family roles or the routines of daily life. but by an unspoken, profound understanding, an emotional intimacy that would guide the way we related to each other from that point onward. And as I lay in bed that night, reflecting on the evening, the quiet suspense of what had passed, the thrill of being truly seen and appreciated, and the awareness of the depth of our bond filled me with an overwhelming mix of emotions: gratitude, warmth, and a sense of anticipation for the future. Because I knew with certainty that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. One defined by emotional honesty, unspoken feelings, and the slow-burning tension of a relationship that had always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. And as sleep finally pulled me under, I realized that life had a way of creating moments that were small in appearance but monumental in impact. And this evening, this quiet, charged evening with Liam would be remembered as the night everything subtly but irrevocably changed, the night when unspoken feelings and emotional intensity reshaped the landscape of our connection forever.